Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have another remarkable story, a Sherlock tale called Rabbit and Turtle Escape the Wolves, written by Cordelia Smith. Now, this story is about two best friends, Rabbit and Turtle, who love spending time together. However, one day, something went terribly wrong. Now, let's see what happened. Let's get started. Chapter 1, Turtle's Pond. Long ago, Turtle lived in a pond he shared with a very large catfish. If he swam out of the pond, he could visit his friends in the forest. He especially loved visiting with his best friend Rabbit. Turtle also loved his pond because it was near an apple orchard. Turtle's favorite fruit was apples, and he loved to watch them grow. First, little pink blossoms covered the apple trees. Their flowers smelled like sweet honey. And then, tiny green apples replaced the flowers when they fell. And every time it rained, the apples grew bigger. Now, when the apples were ripe, the trees looked like they were covered with red polka dots. And that was when Turtle knew it was time to invite Rabbit for an apple feast. Rabbit would hop straight to the lowest branch of the apple trees and throw apples down to Turtle. Once they had gathered a pile of apples, Rabbit would hop down and the two would eat until their tummies were full. Yum, yum. Now, one year, when the apples were ripe, Turtle invited Rabbit to come for their apple feast. But it didn't go as planned because of a surprise dinner guest. Chapter 2, The Surprise Dinner Guest. Now, Rabbit was in the tree throwing apples to Turtle when suddenly Wolf appeared. These apples would be a tasty treat before my rabbit dinner, Wolf thought. And then he began to gobble up every apple Rabbit threw. Turtle wanted to stop Wolf from eating all the apples, but every time Turtle tried to catch one, Wolf snapped his big sharp teeth at Turtle, and Turtle was scared. Now Rabbit was watching. Rabbit didn't like the way Wolf was treating Turtle, and he knew Wolf might snap him up when he hopped down. So Rabbit did not want to become Wolf's supper. Wolf, we can share these apples, Rabbit offered. There are enough for all of us. Why don't you let Turtle keep half of the apples? And then we can have some too. What? What if I just eat all the apples and then I will feast on you? Wolf growled. Now Rabbit did not like that idea. He stayed in the tree thinking about what he needed to do to save himself and Turtle and looking around for anything that might help. And then Rabbit picked an apple, drew back his arm, and threw it straight at Turtle. Wolf jumped in front of Turtle, snatched the apple out of the air, and ate it in one bite. Now, while Wolf ate the apple, Rabbit reached up to the branch above him and pulled a small white bone out of the bird's nest there. And once again, Rabbit drew back his arm and threw straight at the turtle. And once again, Wolf jumped in front of Turtle and caught the object in his mouth. But this time, it wasn't an apple. It was the bone. Ouch. Now, when Wolf jumped his jaws shut, he squeaked as the bone lodged in his throat. And then his whole face turned red and he started to cough and gag. A minute later, Wolf was rolling on the ground, clawing at his throat. His tail was whipping wildly in every direction as he tried to cough up the bone. And while Wolf was occupied, Rabbit hopped out of the tree and grabbed Turtle and ran away. Now, when Wolf finally coughed up the bone, he was furious at Rabbit for tricking him and escaping. Now, Wolf went home. He told the other wolves what a nasty trick Rabbit had played on him and that he had almost choked to death on the bone. And then all the wolves went hunting for Rabbit and Turtle, and they started in the apple orchard and followed the scent from there. When they finally caught Rabbit, he was almost home. The wolves were going to gather wood for fire to cook Rabbit, but he made them an offer they could not refuse. Wait. It is not the best day to join you for supper, but if you insist, you really should let me teach you to dance first, Rabbit offered. Now, the wolves knew Rabbit was one of the best dancers in the forest, and they all wanted to learn to dance. But they were all getting hungry too. But they agreed to let him teach them one dance before supper. Rabbit lined all the wolves up in a row, and then he explained the dance. Every time I sing, you all take one step right and one step back. One step right and one step back. And then Rabbit sang, Waya hey ja, waya eh ja, waya eh ja, waya eh ja. One of the wolves stepped left instead of right and hit the wolf beside him, and they both went tumbling down. No, go to your other right, Rabbit exclaimed. Now get up and let's try again. And then Rabbit sang, Waya eh ja, waya eh ja, waya eh ja, waya eh ja. And this time, all the wolves took one step right and one step back, just as they were told. Good work! Rabbit cheered. Keep going. And Rabbit sang. Waya ja, waya ja, waya ja, waya ja. Now, when Rabbit had sung the song many times, the roar of wolves was almost to the woods and far from him. Excellent dancing! Rabbit praised. But I promised to have supper with Bear tonight. You're going to have to catch me another day. And with those words, Rabbit hopped away before the wolves could catch him. Chapter 4. Turtle Soup. Now the wolves were surprised. The rabbit had tricked them. They were also still hungry, and that was making them grumpy. Let's go back to the orchard and see if we can find Turtle, Wolf told his pack. Now, Rabbit didn't carry Turtle far when they ran away from Wolf. He simply had carried Turtle up the mountain to his pond. Now the wolf pack followed the scent and then they found Turtle easily. Turtle was relaxing in the sunshine. Surrounding Turtle, the wolf started to discuss how best to hit him. He is so small. He'd barely make a meal for one of us. One of the wolves grumbled. Well, what if we squish him into jelly and put him on biscuits? Asked another of the wolves excitedly. Why don't we just boil him and make turtle soup? A third wolf hutched. Turtle soup? Yes! And then we can all have some. And the wolves agreed. They all loved turtle soup. Now the wolves built a fire and brought a big pot and filled it with water. And then they picked Turtle up and plopped him inside. At first, Turtle enjoyed the water. It was nice and warm, and he needed a good bath. He had sticky bits of apple all over him from the orchard. But then the water grew hotter and started to bubble, and then it started to steam. Turtle started to sweat and overeat. Wolf, this water is really starting to eat up. It's getting uncomfortable. Can you get me out now? Turtle asked. And Wolf ignored him and kept talking to his pack. Wolf, you can't really mean to eat me, Turtle pleaded. I'm old. Any soup you make with me will be all tough bits and fat and gristle. Now Wolf stood up from where he had been sitting with the others, but he did not help Turtle out of the pot. Instead, he used a spoon to push Turtle down into the water. Now Turtle realized Wolf was not going to help him, and he was scared. And then he decided to help himself. Turtle started kicking the sides of the pot with his strong back legs. Whack, Whack! And Turtle kept kicking. Whack! And when he was so tired, he could barely keep kicking. He heard a wonderful sound. Now water poured out of the pot into the fire and put out the flames. The pot was in pieces and Turtle was free. Now the wolves had been waiting for turtle soup, and then they saw the broken pot and they were hungry. And they started talking about another way to eat turtle. After listening to the wolves argue a few minutes, Turtle said, "Whatever you do, don't throw me in the pond." Now the wolves considered this briefly and then went back to discussing how to make turtle jam. And then Turtle began to beg, "Please, please, don't throw me in the pond. It's dark under the deep water, and there's a catfish under there, bigger than me. Please." Now when all the wolves heard this, they all started to smile. They all agreed that this was the best way to punish Turtle for breaking their pot. They would find something else to eat for dinner. Now Wolf stepped forward, picked up Turtle, and threw him into the center of the pot, where the water was deepest. And he threw Turtle so hard that Turtle's shell cracked when he hit the water and broke into pieces. The wolves didn't know Turtle lived in the mud at the bottom of the pond. So Turtle swam home and sewed his shell back up, and then he floated to the top of the water and took a nap, safe from harm. Now, if you look hard, you can still see the silver lines on Turtle's shell where he had to sew it back together. Now, we all know this as the day Rabbit and Turtle escape the wolves. The wolves know it as the day that they discovered delicious peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Wow. What a wonderful, wonderful story. Now, boys and girls, now let's think. What part of the book did you enjoy most? Why? And which character in the book was your favorite? Thank you so much for joining us for another story time. We thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you soon.